Hello, hello, hello. I am live. I am live here on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. Oh, super excited to be here to have this conversation. I am Tamara Louis, founder of Monovan Digital Marketing Solutions. And today we are talking about our social media influencers just simply con artists. So the top 7 digital marketing trends, we decided to, come to you at noon today on a Friday to have this interesting conversation because I just couldn't help myself. I saw this article the other day on CNBC and they were talking about social media influencers really impacting the crypto space and people losing millions of dollars. I was like, you know what? How do we join this conversation? How do we participate in a conversation that is so relevant to all of our businesses? Well, lucky for me, I know all the subject matter experts, so I am bringing them here today to one panel. Actually, we're going to have 2 panels because it's a lot of people. Everybody decided to show up and say yes. So we'll jump to the intro, then we'll bring everyone to the stage. Thank you for joining us. Hey guys, how are you? I have my amazing panel with me here today. Everyone, please introduce yourself. Tell people who you are. Let's start with you, Michelle Gordon.
Well, happy Friday, everyone. I am Michelle Gordon with Lanyap Digital Consulting. I am here to cause a ruckus in regard to how we view things as far as sales and pricing is concerned, and how influencers are affecting how we're managing our businesses. So happy to be on this panel with this illustrious crew of people today.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Chef, introduce yourself. Tell the people who you are.
What's up, everybody? I'm Chef Saida Farrell, and I'm the owner of the Marshmallow of the Month Club. So excited to be here to talk about influencers.
And then, of course, we have in the building, Juma.
Hey, it's great to be here. I'm Juma Banster. I am the co-founder and creative director of Relate Studios, a strategic marketing and production company out of Trinidad and Tobago, and we help people build long-term relationships with their customers using useful content. So that's what we're here to contribute today to this influencer marketing conversation. Will be good.
It is going to be amazing, right? So I am trying to get you guys live on Instagram as well. So please request to join. I don't have anybody requesting to join, but I see you are here. People are joining us. So guys, let's kick the conversation off. So are social media influencers really just con artists? You know what? I'm going to kick it over to you first, Chef. What do you think? I know you have a lot on this.
So I guess the question is, what is the con, right? So when you are a social media influencer, what are you trying to get people to do? And most likely it's you're trying to get someone to buy something, but are you being honest in the way that you're trying to get them to buy it? And I guess in the realm that we're talking, when we're talking about marketing, there's so many people that will say, do these 5 things and I promise you'll get 1 million followers tomorrow morning. And it's just like, so I feel like that's the con, like these expectations that if you do this one thing, 5 things, 10 things, the next day you'll have like immediate results.
So I agree with you 100%, right? That's one of the things that I struggle with a lot when I hear marketers say that, when I hear them talk about, these are the things that you need to do and you get those results, right? It's really always out of context. So I definitely dig what you are putting down at this very moment. And that's one of the things we really try to do is work past that, right? How do you get to where you need to be using your goals and making sure it's in context for your business? So Michelle, I'm going to kick it over to you. What are your thoughts? Are social media influencers just con artists?
I don't think they are. I think that there is just the inevitable mix of problem people, problem companies, and that we have to enter the environment and be hesitant and cautious in whatever we do to ensure that we are taking care of our business and being mindful as if we do in any other environment. So I'd say no, but be mindful and watch out for it because there are some scam artists out there.
100%. I hear you. So it really kind of depends, right? So Juma, what are your thoughts on it?
No, I don't think they are. I think generally it's a character issue and people can take advantage of people if they see the opportunities. And the more I hear about different things that happen, about products that don't get delivered, about pumping up schemes and all those different things, I always look at the individual who's doing it, and I'm saying they're using their influence or their ability to get these group of people to follow what they say to their own personal benefit. And the issue is that it depends on the individual, and companies and individuals have to be very wise when they're told they're going to get something instantly. Instantaneous things do not happen in the world of business, so you have to be very smart about it.
I agree with you 100%. We have to be smart about it, but there are no rules, there are no guidelines for social media influencers, right? They are just really this thing that started more recent than not. Let's say about maybe the past, 10 years, 20 years or so, that's really been evolving. There are no rules, there are no guidelines. And a part of social media, being a social media influencer, is actually building trust, right? So that's one of their job descriptions, is to build trust. And as we talk about marketing, we're always talking about that building trust factor. So what are your thoughts on social media influencers being people who naturally have to build trust as a criteria? How do we, as businesses, how do we consider working with a social media influencer if they're already, from the gate, they know that's a part of what they're supposed to do?
I'm going to go on this one. I think it is an interview process. Frankly, we have to, for our business, understand what we want to have identified with our brand, our vision, who we want to associate. Basically, who are our people? Who do we want to partner with, and who do we want to have brought into our companies? And we need to have that criteria and look for that criteria as we're looking for someone to partner with. Are they measuring up? Can you identify their information? What is their goal? Are they good for our company? And are they going to be able to move us to that place that we've identified with our goals? That our company, our goals, and our personas for us and our target clientele has always got to be at the forefront of everything. And we need to have that measuring stick for everything that we do to ensure that we are putting our business forward and protecting our best interests.
Juma, I heard you agreeing. You want to jump in there?
Yeah, 100%. I think so we know that influence as a marketing tool has been around for a long time. We used to have spokespeople and brand ambassadors and all those different things. But I think the shift from like an emphasis on mass marketing to direct marketing, where you have to be very personal and build trust to a very specific group of people, has caused influencers to gain a lot of power. And here's the thing. The thing is that in the game of influence, you don't necessarily have to appeal to everyone. You just have to appeal to a very specific segment. And so you could have somebody who is a nobody inside of the general population, but then they are a rock star marine biologist, or they are a rock star sculptor in marble, and they can appeal to that segment so strongly that you position this person to speak to those people. Now, the issue is when you get somebody who doesn't align with your business objectives, or doesn't align with the people you're speaking to, and you expect them to create hype or create some miracle around this product. And oftentimes the misalignment causes problems. But even more so, what tends to happen is that when influencers by themselves bring out their own things, they kind of use that influence generally to do things that may not necessarily be beneficial to the people who they are speaking to. So I think businesses have to be aware of the alignment of the influencers with the business goals that they want to accomplish. So I agree with Michelle 100%.
Jeff, what do you think?
Absolutely. I think one thing for me is I look at, is the influencer actually using the product or methods that they're actually talking about? So if they're building a Facebook group and they're telling you how to get to 20,000 subscribers, do they even have the 20,000 subscribers? You know what I'm saying? So that I kind of, when I look at an influencer, I go behind the scenes to actually see, do they have the receipts, and they're actually, doing the things that they said, telling you to do to build your business. Because I guess as a small business owner, I've gotten caught up in a lot of influencers who are building influential being an influencer, but not necessarily building a small business. And I think there's a difference with, like, you know, building your following and growing your small business.
I love that. I love that. You know what? I'm going to jump into some of the comments. Gabe is here with us. Hello, hello. We also have, good afternoon, Karen. How are you? Jamila is here with us. She's like 1 million followers. Bear lies. Hey, how are you? I don't know how I got invited to this, but thank you for inviting me. You're so welcome. Marcella was saying hashtag team live. People are here in LinkedIn. They love this conversation. Super excited about that. Thank you to everyone joining us on Instagram as well. Put your comments in the chat. What do you think? Are social media influencers just con artists, or, you know, are they something different? I love what you guys are all saying. I think it's all relevant. You know, you really hit on the goals of the business, right? So as a business, you really have to be concerned with your business goals when you step out to look for influencers. One of the other things I want to talk about is that there should be maybe different levels of influencers, right? When you're getting with an influencer, can this person actually influence a buying decision, right? I think that's important. If they can't influence a buying decision, I see so many people that are influencers, and when you get there, they're beautiful. Sometimes they're really beautiful, but when you look at their audience, you know, maybe it's just all the dirty old men in there. So you understand that they're not influencing any buyers. Did I say that?
Right.
Did I think it, or did I
It
say
might be true. It might be true. You never know.
right?
And Tamara, my question too is, are they attractive to you as a person, or are they right for your client, the people you're trying to attract in?
Absolutely.
Or are they turning them off? You know, that's something that you have to really be concerned about.
Absolutely.
Are they part of your demographic? And channel driven. Somebody, they may be perfect for a TikTok or an Instagram, but horrid for what you need, your needs for the demographics that's in YouTube. So we've got, and LinkedIn, you've got to be really concerned about your goal. Again, back to your goal and where you want your business to go to, and what's the purpose in your life. Because you're right, I saw something on, I want to say it was TikTok, and it was this young girl talking about her 100-pound weight loss, and she was as skinny as a stick and trying to advise a 40 and 50-year-old how to lose weight.
Right.
Right.
Really?
Right. So it's really about identifying, do they align with your business goals? And I think that's one of the big problems with just digital marketing in general, right? Many times, you know, digital appears so sexy. The social media side of things really appear very sexy and people love it, but they don't really lead back to the business goals. And that's something that we always talk about, right? How does everything connect back to what you're trying to achieve, that money in the bank? Because this really needs to impact that, right? So when you're considering a social media influencer for your business, you have to start thinking about, what does this do to move the needle forward? Am I collecting email addresses? Am I being introduced to them, right? If you're not checking those boxes, then simply you're really just having fun, right? And you know how we feel about just having fun when you're doing marketing, right? We want it to be super intentional, trackable, and lead back to the goal. So it comes back to really having some really, really clear structures. Yeah. Juma, you want to add to that?
Yeah, and can I add, I mean, it's so critical as well that the people who we get to represent us can align with our brand voice and align with who our brand is. And you could do much more damage to your own brand if you get somebody who is not in alignment. So I like Michelle's point of aligning the channels, but also I think the brand voice is very important, because you may have one that is focused on love or caring or you know, treating your customers a particular way, and then the influencer that might be suggested to you might be a rebel, might be out of the box, and there could be a misalignment there. And so you have something that alienates your clients, alienates your customers when they come on to do things for you, because whatever they offer will not be in alignment with your own brand voice. So that's important to consider as well.
Absolutely. And I love what you said about the levels of influencers as well, because like I found as a subscription box owner, if I give my box to someone who has a huge following and they're doing like this haul, right? So they're reviewing like 30 boxes within a YouTube video, and they're just opening the products, but they're not showing you how to use the products. But then I have this smaller influencer who's opening it, showing you how to make, you know, use the kit. And like I get more sales from that than I do from a larger influencer who's just like, here's what's in the box today. You know, so I appreciate what you said, that you have to look at the different levels of influencers and how that affects your business as well.
Chef, they're actually calling those nano influencers because they have a smaller audience. People tend to believe, just like what we talk about with reviews that you see from total strangers who will post their pictures that will help you to move things along the line because they look like you can relate to them, and they're more apt to buy because they're farther down the relationship.
Absolutely.
They're way down the relationship and there's no guesswork there. They believe that trust in them, that trust is already there. So they're farther along in the sales process versus, like you said, somebody that we're just, cyber stalking and we're looking, but we don't quite trust them enough. So we don't buy. I know there's a bunch of them that I just look at and say, yeah, I'm not sure about you just yet.
Right. Just some comments here. The person, we need to disqualify folks. I really like that, right? How do you disqualify folks, right? Akash is saying create an influencer, brand partner, ambassador, micro influencer, nano influencer. What is the goal of visibility to achieve? Then that goal with the right person and the right content, right? So again, he's really kind of agreeing with what we're saying. It kind of comes back to what are your goals? We want to kind of start leaning into, so what are some of your suggestions for small businesses or for anyone thinking about working with an influencer? What are some tips that you would provide to say, hey, these should be some of the things that you look at first outside of what you've already given? Kick it over to Chef. Go for it.
Well, outside of what I've already said, I mean, it's really about building that relationship with them and setting some expectations when they're doing, when they're creating content for you. So like for me, it's just not opening the box. It's really, here's how I need you to interact with the box. And do you believe it? And if like you don't like it, please don't do me the but I would rather have like built a relationship with an influencer and just and I love that disqualifying thing. Like what are your no's? I really do like that, to disqualify them.
Absolutely. Juma, what other tip would you give out?
Yeah, you have to really dig into more than the surface and look at the data of what they've been doing and really see what who their people are. And obviously you are borrowing their community. You're leveraging their community. So who are the people in their community that you're going to be talking to when they speak? What is the kind of impact is going to happen on their side? So once their community aligns with who you want to speak to, then there's some possible synergy there, and you can start to talk about the how you could collaborate on this influence marketing.
Michelle?
I think from my perspective and what I speak to people about is, when it comes to influencers, you have to look at it in two different ways. Who's your audience, the consumer or the creator? And those two aspects. If they are a consumer, how do they behave on each one of those platforms? And as you're trying to get to the influencer or that creator, what's their goal and their influence on those particular platforms to move the audience that you're seeking? They might be great in perform well for a place like LinkedIn or Instagram, but maybe horrific. Again, I like that word horrific because I want to, and totally mess up what you need in a YouTube or a different platform. So you have to understand the consumer and the creator and the behavior and their goals and how they can influence things.
I love that. All right. So, here's a question for you guys. Is that me echoing? So here's a question for you guys. As content creators, because we're all out here, Michelle, Juma, Chef, and we're all out here in these streets creating content and building followings. So, my friends, are you social media influencers?
I am a social media influencer.
Was that a confession, Chef, as part of a 12-step program or something?
It seems that way. It seems that way.
I'm a social media influencer. Yeah, I would definitely say that I am. I mean, like, yes, I have a small business, but, I have other, circles that I'm in, as well as helping people to grow their small businesses. And so I definitely believe that I'm a social media influencer. And I think one other thing is that when looking at other influencers, and I'm going to take one of your words, Tamara, is, are they optimizing? Because I just realized recently I stopped following someone on because they were saying the same thing that they were saying 3 years ago. And I understand that like their message is for that person who's just getting started, but now they don't have a message for the person who is growing, right? So I start to look at these influencers and I'm thinking, okay, and I'm looking at them like, are they optimizing? Are they growing? Are they teaching me something new?
I love that. Juma, are you a social media influencer?
All right, so so I don't usually answer this question, but I'm going to agree with Chef and say yes, right? I'm part of the same program she's in.
So could you say it?
So
Say it with your chest. I need you to say all the
say
words.
yes. I am a social media influencer. But here's the thing. Here's how I can tell, right? When I post content, I go look in the comments.
Mm.
And I see how people are describing how the content is impacting them.
Mm.
If they are using words like, hey, this has changed my life, this has changed the way I think about things, this has changed, if it brings a particular level of transformation or they making a different choice based upon interfacing with the content, then I can confidently say, yes, I have been able to help this person with the things I have presented them. So that, yes, I do have influence. And when I go through the comments, I see that often. So that's how I can reconcile that in my own mind. Even if I don't agree with the terminology, I can reconcile it that way for me personally. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. All right, Michelle, before I come to you, let me jump into the chat. So Andrea is saying that she loves Chef Bo's statement, her confession. Excellent point. Are they optimizing? Akash is saying he finds the biggest challenge to use data mixed with sentiment analysis tone, than to even think about the other, such as a connection between the physical and digital groups, right? And then Gail is saying, what's the message? Are they growing? Good questions, right? Marcello is saying, Gail, whether it's yes, yes, yes. So I love that. They are so engaging in the chat. We love that. So Michelle, are you a social media influencer?
I am. I actually am owning that now. I came to terms with it because I'm on the other end of the 12-step program now. And that when people started tagging me in things and asking my opinion or saying, you mentioned this, you've said something similar to this, that's when I realized my effect on others in interesting ways. And it took me a moment to absorb that and to come to terms with it, but I am, and I'm going to own it. We do it in our daily lives. We recommend things. We do influence outside of it. I think it's reconciling in the social media spaces that we are influencing and actually having our face and our voice and our thoughts attached to something with all of these strangers versus the people we know and love.
I love that. I love that. You guys are all owning it too. I love the fact that also it's really, Juma, you talked about that transformation. How are you helping people, right? What's happening with them? Are they making moves within their content? Are they able to really go through the steps that you're putting forth and do something different and make a change? So I really love that idea. So talk to me about who is one of your favorite social media influencers. Who are you listening to consistently? Chef, don't say it. Who are you listening to all the time? Who is your social media influencer? Your favorite social media influencer, I should say.
Well, I'm a fan of Juma. I have several. I love when Michelle said like a few days ago, I think it was on Clubhouse, or people talking about you when you're not in the room, right? So like all three of you right there, I'm quoting you when you're not in the room, and then of course Favor is my best friend. So I'm quoting him, when, but there are some big ones out there that I'm following, but again, they're not moving into another, the direction I'm growing into. And this is what I love about this group that you've created tomorrow, is like we're all like rising, we're all rising together. Nobody is like having the same conversation we had 3 years ago. We're just optimizing it and taking it to the next level.
I love that. I love that. Juma, who are you listening to on a regular basis?
Okay, so I take bits and pieces from a lot of people, including yourself and my sister Jamila, and because I learn by pulling from different sources. But these days I'm listening to Blair Enns. I don't know if you know that guy. Yeah, so it's just it's a business creativity podcast, which is big for me. So like, how does the business part of creativity go? And for me, that is a big influence. Both myself and my business partner, we have discussions about what is being talked about there, and it impacts some of how we make decisions. So man, that is me these days.
I love that. I love
Can I
that.
say something about Jamila?
Go
Oh
for
my gosh. So she's in a totally different industry than I am, right? But I think it's important that you go outside of your industry because then you get like creative ideas. And I love her content because her beauty content doesn't apply to me, but I make it apply to me and it helps me to be, stay creative. So I love her content.
I love that. I love that. Michelle, who are you listening to?
Oh, I have a few. I actually have a few. Besides, my love fest for the people in this room, because Juma stretches me every day. He posts something to rise to the right occasion, to be active and to present and to be consistent and to have that message. I learned that from him. Jeff stretches me in that she gets on and she shows her personality and shows who she is, the thing that I keep trying to hide. And instead of putting myself forward, and this pushes that forward. But then there's some that are pulling me in just because I went in looking for something in regard to, a woman of a certain age that I am, or women in business, financial kind of things that I'm growing in, and I'm learning things about these spaces, Brown Ambition, and Her Money, Earn Your Leisure, a couple of guys in money who have really come through and done some organic things, especially in the space of people of color that I'm enjoying. So I'm learning about those things, but I'm also stretching and getting that muscle memory in the influencing space and understanding how to move a business forward. So there are a couple of people that I'm looking at.
Earn Your Leisure is great. They're great.
I love that. I like the Come Up series. I'm a fan of them. So definitely.
And always the counterpart on the Bannister family, Miss Jamila Bannister. She gets that Queen Jamila. She is the truth.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, guys, you are the first panel today, and I loved this conversation. Thank you so much for taking the time and doing this with me. I think it's such an important part of, the conversation that's happening right now as we move to more content creation, more social media influencers, and, really starting to look, if we're looking at ourselves as influencers, what is the tone that we're setting, right? How are we responsible as we influence people? And then understanding also the metrics, right? How do we connect the metrics back to it? Because it's important that we do that. So thank you for sharing and thank you for joining this conversation. We're moving to panel 2 right now. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have an awesome weekend.
You as well. Take care. All right. Well, this conversation was so big. We actually had to have 2 panels. So I'm bringing other folks to the stage now to talk some more. Yay!
Hey.
Hello. You guys have to join me on Instagram because we have more people on Instagram. Where are you?
Okay, I am joining on.
I'm trying to join.
Boom. There you go. All right. So everyone here, please introduce yourself, starting with Marette. Tell the people who you are.
Well, there are some logistics needs right now I'm taking care of with the Instagram Live, but my name is Virat and I'm calling in from Switzerland. Happy to be here. I know a little bit about social influencers when it comes especially to the hotel space. We work a lot with so-called influencers in different ways, so I'm excited to be on this panel.
Absolutely. Eric, introduce yourself. Tell the people who you are.
Yeah, I'm Eric Davis. I've been doing social media influencer work since 2007. I've worked with some of the biggest names in the world, and I'm doing it now with my company Univera, it's in the health and wellness space.
Michael, introduce yourself. Tell the people who you are.
Hi, everyone. Michael Wilshire, Director of Business Development and Sales at Monovan Digital. Really glad to be here. So I am tomorrow's right hand.
I think you have a little feedback happening. You might need to mute yourself let's go for it. All right. So Let's jump into this conversation. So, Maret, Eric, Michael, are social media influencers just simply con artists? What are your thoughts on that?
I'm
Go, Eric.
gonna say yes and no.
Okay.
So I think it obviously depends. There's people who are in earnest. So I've been doing influencer work for so long. So when I first started doing social media influencer work, this was back in like 2007 when we were doing it for. I was actually working for a ticketing company called Tickets at Work and also Orlando Fun Tickets. And we were doing Disney tickets and Universal tickets, stuff like that. And so what we were doing is we were finding basically people who were interested in Disney parks. This is before the lifestyle blogger thing happened, and we're going to forums and stuff like that. And so there was a real earnestness where you were finding communities and you were engaging with the communities and you were authentically kind of building relationships with those communities and stuff like that. And those were extremely powerful. Like the ROI back then was bonkers incredible. And then obviously as it became more commoditized over the past decade, really, what you've seen is really, again, you're seeing kids who are growing up saying that what they want to grow up to be is a social media influencer. They don't want to be astronauts, they want to be engineers, they want to be influencers. And this is becoming how people perceive a real career path. And the problem is that there isn't any sort of guideline or real training or real sort of like code of ethics that people are supposed to operate by. And so, for instance, like specifically to crypto, what the kind of headline was about was when you look at like crypto, for instance, you have, God bless it, like God's favorite idiots trying to give you financial advice. Now, mind you, they might be legitimately trying to provide advice, and they might be legitimately trying to do what they think is right. But it's the reality is that they don't have the professional, the commercial experience to understand what they're promoting, the harms of what they're promoting, how they could be destroying people's life savings, because they were asked to sign a simple contract. They didn't really know how to read it. They didn't really know what they were agreeing to. And they then began promoting things without understanding the unintended consequences of their actions. And so that's the real harm that I think is done. And that's why I think that while yes, I'm friends with some very major celebrities and influencers, and I have really close relationships with them, and I think they're lovely people. But the reality is that by and large, this industry has grown in a way and it's caused harm at a level that genuinely needs to be discussed socially. I think where we can be like, cool, there are the FCC guidelines, that say how things have to be disclosed and that you have to disclose things or an ad if you're compensated and stuff like that. That's not enough. And and again, as someone who uses influencers all the time, I have campaigns running right now, social media influencer campaigns, but the reality is what you should really do, again, if you're looking to build a business, you got to build a community.
Right.
You build an authentic community with people who like your products, people you engage with, people who are bought into your story and mission. That's what we're working on at Univera. We really believe in what we do. But the reality is too, is that people need to understand the impact of their harm, especially when it comes to cryptocurrency and how flat out dangerous it can be and destructive it can be to people's lives.
Woo!
Rant over.
What a soapbox, can I say? What a soapbox. Oh my God, great conversation. Another panel. They're loving this so far. I thought it was over. Juma is saying, yep, so different now. Every kid wants to be an influencer. I mean, there's so much to unpack there, Eric, right? But Maret, I'm going to give you an opportunity to jump in and on it. Do you think social media influencers are just con artists?
Definitely not, Tamara. I think there's a bit of an echo, right?
Yeah.
So definitely not. I think it's about how you do your job, right? Even as an influencer, if you do it with responsibility, if you do it professionally, then you're definitely not a con artist. I mean, in every industry or every profession, you have people who work professionally and people who don't, right? This exact same is with influencers. So on the hotel side, we work a lot with influencers. the way we work with them is mostly in exchange for free stay or complimentary meals or complimentary spa treatments. So there's usually no exchange money unless it's a campaign, where we where we actually ask them to produce content that we want them to produce, and we give them guidelines. Then yes, then there's an exchange of money. Otherwise, we work with them more, it's a barter agreement, and usually the results are good, usually, especially when we let them do what they want, more or less, because we have to also respect their style. I mean, it's very stupid if as a hotel we approach an influencer and say, well, you have to do this and this and that. No, they have to do what they are good at doing, right? And that's how we will get true results, because their followers need to feel this is genuine, that's authentic, that they're really enjoying their stay. So to answer your question, no, they are not con artists, but there are some influencers who don't really behave professionally and don't really produce the content that maybe a hotel needs. And that would be my reply.
Awesome. I love it. Michael, I'm going to kick it over to you. What are your thoughts?
All right, let me unmute here. Am I unmuting on Instagram as well? Yes, got it. All right, so I agree 100% with Mirette. I think that by and large, no, I would say they are not con artists. Totally agree with Eric. It's the growth and the speed of growth of this industry. And of course, when you have an industry that grows very quickly, it becomes the wild, wild west for a while, right? Before the regulations can step in, before, you can actually align and say, okay, this is what it means if I want, as you said, it's those kids. I want to be an influencer when I grow up, but what does that exactly mean? I definitely want to just jump back to, something Juma said in that first panel, which is, understanding the business model of the individual influencer. What's my business model as an influencer, right? Am I just trying to grow my own clout? Ultimately, what's my ultimate goal? Is my ultimate goal to represent specific brands, right? So you want to make sure that you're really looking at what's that alignment between your business model and the influencer's business model, because two very different things, right? Two very different things. Juma talked about that it's not a new concept. And I like that he went back to that idea of brand ambassador. So we are accustomed to seeing a face represent a brand, right? But are you considering how long you're going to use this influencer for? How, is this the face that you want in your brand? And especially that time period, so are they going to appear as the face of your brand for 2 months and then be gone, right? So definitely, as I said, agree. I don't think they're con artists, but I think the space, once spaces get crowded, you get all the negative stuff happening coming in, and you want to just make sure, as from a business perspective, that that alignment, that word alignment becomes also key.
Definitely.
What? Y'all getting hot up in here today. Oh my goodness. All right. I have to jump into the chat because people are here saying, yes, there are bad actors in every industry. Marcello is saying, Juma, great insight today on the panel. Keep working on your magic. I think they were just, they're having a moment. So as content creators, right? So I asked the other panelists as well, as content creators now, Eric, you're creating content. You've been in the digital space for a long time. You've led some massive SEO takeovers in the digital world. Do you consider yourself an influencer? Well, right, we're working on the hotel marketing space, right? There's a lot of marketing around that, everything that's happening there. Do you consider yourself an influencer now? And same thing for you, Michael, as you start, you're more on Clubhouse, you're out there talking more, sharing your thoughts, sharing, ideas around business development and the fundamentals of business. Are you guys finding yourself as influencers? And then also add to that, what is the responsibility? How are you managing yourself as you're putting the information out there?
Yeah. So, I think, Tamara, you and I, we've known each other for a long time. And there was a time where I was beginning to ascend to the influencer level, and where that was something I was kind of titillated with and toying with. But I think what I discovered for myself is what I enjoyed most was really genuinely, authentically working with people and influencing behind the scenes in a more traditional sense. And so, I'm an influencer in the fact that I have a lot of really awesome business connections and stuff like that. And I take that all kind of private, and I have kind of one-on-one conversations. So in a sense, I guess, I'm an influencer, but I also recognize the power of that, and you and I have had conversations about that. but I think it's one of those things that, you know, you got to think about what your responsibility is to your community and to Earth, you know, and to your country, and to whatever, however you want to break it down, your family, whatever it is. But, you know, how can you be a decent human, you know? And that's how I really try to look at it is, you know, I try to love and care about everyone I work with. And that's how I try to treat everyone like how I want to be treated. So
I love that. Oh, awesome, awesome, awesome. Marette, what are your thoughts? Are you a social media influencer? And, you know, what is the responsibility? What are the things that you're thinking about as you start influencing people in the space?
I am not an influencer, social media influencer, but I am an influencer in the industry. And that's the reason why I started hotel marketing space, you know, because I saw the response, the people coming to me, asking me for advice, people asking me for different things when it comes to marketing, PR, for hotel. That's why I then brought up the hotel marketing space. But it's my offline influence that led to my business decision. And it's then nowadays, to promote a business, you need to create content. Yeah. So I wouldn't call myself a social media influencer, but an influencer in the industry, yes. And I'm using content to promote the business, which came out of my influence in the industry. I don't know if this makes sense.
Yeah, no, 100%. I feel like, you know, that actually is super clear, right? You have had impact in your industry. And so now that's the influence that you're leveraging to grow a business. So I think, as we talked about before in the first panel, there are different levels of influence. And, you know, I think, Mike, I'm going to kick the question over to you. But before I do that, I think this is a really great question here, right? Yasmin is asking, do you think that the title influencer is used arbitrarily? And I agree 100%. I think there's no real definition. How do you define a social media influencer, right? How are you defining a social media influencer? Is that person someone who is converting people? So if you have a hotel, are they driving more people to come stay at your hotel? If you have a product that you're selling, are they driving people to buy your product? Or are they simply, you know, making people aware of your product? Or are they simply, you know, what are they doing in the big scheme of things? Or are they maybe just driving you likes and follows over to your social media? So it comes back to really your goals, you as the business understanding what you want to do, and then looking for those people that kind of meet those needs, right? So I think it is very arbitrary that we use the term social media influencer. And Eric talked about it. We need some ethics. We need some more definition. If kids want to be social media influencers, what does that new job description look like, or what does that look like as an entrepreneur, right? So Michael, I'm going to kick the question over to you, as you are now, you know, influencing people in the house space.
Well, I'd like to say I love Mirette's distinction, you know, being an industry influencer. As for that question, I think what's great about that question from Yasmin is the title arbitrary. Let's talk the difference between being popular and being an influencer, right? So I can be looking at somebody's profile, 20,000 followers. They love that person just because of the things they do. But is that person causing them, as Juma said, to take action, to make changes? Is it affecting them? I would say that, you know, once you are putting out content that's designed to make people sway their thought or take a different action, then you are, by definition, influencing them, right? And from a marketing perspective, what are we trying to influence you to do? To buy, right? So influencers, I think I would definitely class myself as an influencer. Once I'm putting out content, I can remember, and I will take us back a little bit tomorrow to years ago, the onset of Facebook. And so if you remember Clout and Q scores, and we were, you know, measuring our Q score. So, you know, we're doing all these things that were, you know, the earliest measurements of how much impact did your content have on other people, right? So I would say once you should look at it as, once you're putting out content that's going to change somebody's mind, make them take a certain direction of action, then consider yourself an influencer. You totally have a responsibility, not only from a personal perspective, from a business perspective, because remember that thing called your good name or your goodwill, right? So you want to make sure that you are responsible. So in the case of the cryptocurrency, am I being responsible when I'm advertising or, you know, promoting for a crypto? to see, as Eric said, all the downsides as well. Remember that these are the pluses, these are the negatives. Am I giving an unbiased representation, right? So that's my couple thoughts. I know I could go on a stream there, but I think we are influencers, as I said, once we're putting out content that's designed to shift where you are mentally.
I love that.
Tamara, I have just a point here. May I chime in? No, the reason why I made a distinction is because it's true. A lot of people, as Eric said, they want to become social media influencers. But what we don't realize that if it's not backed by offline influence, especially if you're B2B, right? If your business is B2B, if it's not by your trust, the trust offline that the clients have in you, all the social media influence is nothing, right? And that's where I think we need to pay attention when we create content is how valuable is it, right? And sometimes we waste so much time creating content that is just to get, the vanity metrics, right? Just more likes and more comments. But is it really helping our business, right? Is it really needed? Yeah. So these are thoughts that I know it's an uncomfortable conversation is, are we doing things just because we want more likes and comments, or is it really helpful for our clients and is it really helpful for our business? Those would be my thoughts.
Oh, I love that, right? Because that takes us right back to how do we go beyond the likes and follows, especially when we're thinking about business, right? And I think that's really, really important. Eric, I want to kick it back to you to talk a little bit about some of the social media influencers that you are working with currently. How, when you're pulling together social media campaigns with influencers, how are you looking at your goals and what is the expectation of them? Is it that you're looking for them to sell product or are you saying, hey, we want brand awareness and here's how we're measuring that?
Yeah, so right now, because Univera, the company I'm at right now, social media influencers, they've never done it before. And so right now it's really kind of creating that momentum with the product. And so it's really kind of introducing the product socially to the world in that sense. So really kind of like beginning to explore with influencers, like what works, what doesn't work, and again, like Marat said earlier, is really letting them, people like them for a reason, so let them make the content that's authentic to them. And so really finding out that sweet spot between your product and community engagement. And that's really kind of like where you got to begin to build. And that takes, doing that authentically and genuinely takes time, which sometimes brands don't want to have. Everyone wants to see ROI right here, right now. So for instance, to my CEO, when we started launching these influencer campaigns, I was flat out honest. I said, we're not going to see ROI on these first couple campaigns. And I explained all the reasons why, like that we really need to kind of begin to build a base of content and kind of social trust and kind of social discourse as we put this out. And so it was really getting buy-in from again, my boss, who's the CEO, and having him really understand that there is a longer goal here. And sure, we could be spammy and we could go the opposite way and we could just go really hard and do things in a non-genuine way. But again, like that kind of ROI is very short-lived. If you want to build a lasting, enduring brand, again, what is the world that we're building? Like what kind of community do you want to live in? And I want to live in a world where people genuinely share the products that they like and that they enjoy. And that takes time, to kind of build that kind of trust and that kind of relationship with influencers and with the general public. And so that's the kind of campaigns that we're working on. And it's a bit of a slog and it takes some time.
I love that. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Michael, I'm going to kick this question over to you because Eric touched on it a little bit, but Chef is asking, should an influencer be unbiased?
Yes, I saw that question. Thanks for that question, Chef. That's an interesting question. Should they be unbiased? Well, are they unbiased or biased to begin with, right? I think this goes back to what's the relationship or the arrangement you're setting up. Let's not say relationship. Let's say what's the contractual arrangement you're setting up with that influencer. That's where bias and unbiased comes in, right? So am I, from the influencer perspective, me jumping from brand to brand, tying in with some of what Eric is saying, is it something that's native to me that I'm actually using so that I'm actually unbiased, even though I'm switching brands, or opposed to, some of the influencers we're talking about, which is who knocks on my door, who sends me stuff, right? And I'm going to promote just them, right? And I want to throw one more thing into here. What about the influencer data when you're starting these engagements? What data are you looking for from the influencer to make these decisions to align with everything that Eric said, right? What's the actual data? Because we love to move by numbers. So the top level number is, how much following they have, but what other numbers do I need to see, right? That will make me say, okay, this is a right match for my brand.
I love that, right? So for me, it's always all about the numbers, right? So I think we should really have a tone where influencers can say to you, this is how many people I have in my email database. This is when I post something, this is what happens to the content. We get these many follows, we usually get these many likes. Here's how much engagement happens, and here's what these conversion rates look like for us. Here's what I've done for other businesses similar to you. They should really be able to pitch themselves or have a pitch that where they can show you, and it should be beyond just the impressions. You really want to be able to see that value. And it's also very different, again, if you are building that influence together, starting off with someone who's just in that space. But I think if someone is tried and true, they should have their own little resume that they can present to you to say that, yes, you should work with me because here's how I can impact your business. So that would be my 2 cents on that. I don't know what anybody else wants to add to that. As soon as I hear the data, I'm like, let's go.
Well, I'm with you, Tamara. I think it's all about knowing your goal. You and I talk about this like flat out, and to back up kind of what Michael said, is when you're looking at data, what is your goal? Before you start your campaign, what are you going to accomplish? Again, that's why I was able to go to my CEO and tell him that we weren't going to see ROI from these initial campaigns and to temper his expectations, because I already knew what our goal was. I knew what our anticipated results were going to be because I knew what our goal was. And so we weren't going to see bonkers sales from our initial social media rollout because that wasn't what the goal was. And so I think it's really just having your goal, being goal focused and knowing what you're going for.
I love that. I love that. So another question here is, also, how does the ideal, now and what they look like, doctor, lawyer, the impacts of perception of being an influencer as a career? Of course, social media managers and influencers were not a thing in the past, but now it is. I wonder if it makes a challenge to take it seriously or not, right? So I think it really, I'll take that question. I think it really depends. I think it depends on, again, who that person is working with. I think it depends on the value they're bringing. We are in a space of digital transformation or the digital revolution. So all these things matter now. Content creators, social media managers, social media influencers, but it really is a matter of what are they driving to the business. So again, as Eric mentioned, there's no code of ethics, there's no job description. Maybe we should start defining it here as the people from the panel, maybe I'll pull them together to pull together. Here's the code of ethics for social media influencers by our panel. I don't know. That might be a good thing. And then, maybe we start defining the job descriptions, right? We start defining what that looks like. Because until somebody does it, I think it's, again, just really very open to interpretation, just like Shakespeare, right? So I want to kick it back over to each one of you to, as businesses are listening to this and they're thinking about working with social medias, what would be some tips that you would give them? What are things that they should be thinking about? If you're saying, hey, I want to work with a social media influencer, what should you be thinking about in your business? So Marette, I'm going to kick it over to you first.
Thank you, Samar. I just wanted to say something related to code of ethics. So for instance, last week, Saudi Arabia announced that now for influencers, they need to have a permit. And it's something that the UAE, United Arab Emirates, already has, I don't know, maybe they started 2 or 3 years ago, I can't remember. But now in Saudi Arabia, since they said last week, anyone, Saudi or foreign, who is promoting any products or any services on their social channels, they have to have a permit. And the same also applies, and this I found it funny, I need to read a little bit more about it. Even if you're Saudi influencer abroad, I don't know how that will work, but so some countries are already starting to see these positions as jobs. They want to start taxing them. So that's the whole thing behind it, right? If you're getting money to promote a post, well, and this is your job, then you need to pay tax, right? So we're getting there, right? We're getting there, and of course, being a conservative country, they also already have some rules on what you can promote or you cannot promote. So this is just a case of where it's becoming a job that's regulated and so on and so forth. what did you ask me again tomorrow? My tips?
What is your tip to anyone looking to work with a social media influencer?
So my tips, if you're working with I'm gonna only talk about hotels because that's my space, yeah. And as a hotelier, when you work with influencers, it's a little bit different than other industries, right? Because we are giving away a lot. So if we're inviting a luxury hotel, we're inviting someone to stay for a couple of nights and giving everything for free, right? Then in this case, as I said, there is no exchange money. So how do you treat this? It's a bit different. You cannot dictate much, right? In other industries, there's an exchange of money, they dictate. And as a hotelier, if there is no exchange of money, do not dictate. My philosophy is actually don't dictate anything at all. Put together an itinerary, right? Suggest things they should do, suggest activities, make sure that they have an amazing experience, right? But don't dictate anything. That would be my biggest tip as a hotelier working with influencers. The other thing, which in my professional career has always proved very, very helpful because I moved from hotel to hotel, develop a friendly relationship with these influencers. I would meet with them also outside, like I go to dinner with them, I invite them parties and so on. They were really friends. So when I moved from one hotel to the other in the Middle East, they were like, now you're there. Let's promote your hotel. And they would do it almost for free because, because of friendship, right? So you need to have that relationship with them. It's not just, okay, you come here, then goodbye. Yeah. Remember their birthdays, follow them on Instagram, engage with them, be genuinely interested in their careers as influencers, because you never know when you will need them and they will need you. And as everything in life is give and take.
I love that. Great points, Moret. Thank you so much. Eric, what points would you give to a small business or any business?
I'm going to contradict Moret just a little bit. So what Moret's advice was very good for hotel, but if you have a physical product, it is okay to have some stipulations on how your product should be used. So for instance, this comes down to sometimes anticipating how creative influencers can be, we'll call it that. And so, for instance, if you have a product that can be consumed or used, and making sure that they're responsibly portraying it. So, for instance, we have a sleep aid, an all-natural sleep aid product, and I always want to make sure that people know that. Is my internet okay for you tomorrow? Or?
You're fine.
Okay.
Yeah, you're fine.
We have an all-natural sleep aid, but making sure that we are in no way promoting this to anyone under 18 or any children, stuff like that. So making sure that they understand how to legally operate within your industry in that sense. And so making sure that you really do kind of spell out those guidelines. And the thing is sometimes when you give people guidelines, they can get really creative in how they color between the lines. And so I think don't dictate how you want the content to be portrayed, as far as like how, so a good example is we actually have an influencer right now who's a big TikToker, and we have this amazing aloe supplement that he's going to be using. And instead of just drinking and giving his experience of drinking it for 30 days, he's going to actually craft out of the empty bottle and make something cool out of it, because that's what his channel does. He's very creative and stuff like that. So instead of just dictating, we just want you to give a review and he is creating something very unique to his channel that I believe is going to perform very well for his audience, because it's his authentic experience merged with his authentic content too. That hopefully, hopefully he likes our product and we get a really good review. So
I would like to add something here about the dictating, non-dictating. When you have a good relationship with these influencers, they naturally come and ask you, so what do you want us to do? If you're really good as an influencer manager, you get this relationship where they are coming to you and asking you, so what would you like us to show about your hotel? What would you like us to do? How would you like me to picture this, right? And that's why I say relationships are very important.
I love that. Oh my God, I love a little back and forth. I agree, disagree. It's my favorite.
Right. She's 100% right, though. When you have a really good relationship, those conversations all happen naturally.
Absolutely. No, I agree 100%. So Michael, what's your 2 cents? What tips do you have out there?
So I would say, from a small business perspective, you definitely want to be very clear on who they influence, how they influence, and what they influence. Those 3 questions. So, start there. When you're even just considering, look at that influencer, see, okay, who's in their audience. Make sure that aligns with your target audience, of course. What is their influence? Is their influence, just high level, what I like this, so you might like this, that whole, because I'm using it, you want to use it. But be clear on those 3 things. Who are they influencing? What's their influence, and how do they do their influence, right? And then tie in everything that both Marette and Eric said to say, make sure you're deepening that relationship. Goes back to, how long is this influencer going to be as a face of your brand, right? So during that period, make sure that you're really connecting, and this becomes an extension of your business. Treat it as such. It's not outside of your business. This is now your brand. I think we've got to connect that word Juma used, brand ambassador, right? Going back to a more succinct term, brand ambassador, right? That this is the face of my business. So that's my tip. Make sure you know who they're influencing, how they're influencing, and why.
Oh my gosh, you guys, King, you brought this today. This was such a great conversation. I am so glad that you made time for this conversation. I mean, the conversation, the comments in the chat, this is a golden conversation. So good to listen this evening. We have like Chef and Yasmin are going back and forth, answering their own questions. I want to jump into the chat definitely and talk a little bit with you guys later on. But I want to thank you guys so much for joining me today. This was awesome, awesome, awesome. I can't wait to have the next roundtable. I feel like, I'm like, what's the next juicy conversation? I'm going to reach out to all of you and find out, because we need it. So Eric, thank you so much. Marette, thank you so much. Michael, thank you so much for joining me today.
It was great. Thanks.
For sure. Take care, guys. Bye.
Take care.
All right. So we're going to remove them from the stream. Guys, today was awesome, 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 awesome. We were talking about social media influencers and the fact that, are they con artists or not, right? And today what we saw was we had these experts come to the stage and they talked about, they're not necessarily con artists, right? But there's no code of ethics. There's no real way for the job to be done, right? It's a new job. It's something that's new within the industry. And we kind of just have to police it ourselves, right? So if you are a business thinking about leveraging a social media influencer, you want to really connect it back to your goals. You want to think about what you are doing in your business and how that impacts you, right? You really want to be sure, can this person, are the people they're influencing in my target audience, are they really influencing? You want to ask some questions, because you don't want to be on the other side of a con at all. So the consensus is that social media influencers are not con artists. Some people are just naturally bad people and may do bad things. But for you as a business owner, you want to really consider how you leverage a social media influencer. You want to make sure that you're not being conned, and you want to make sure that you have clear goals. So guys, I'm so excited to have this conversation today with you from the top 7 digital marketing trends at 7. You know what, but we have a new session called Your Business in Digital, and we are testing this out today. So I am glad that you liked it. The comments were so great. So we will definitely do this again. I'm Tamara Molnawi, founder of Monovan Digital Marketing Solutions. And of course, we help businesses navigate the digital landscape. Thank you so much for joining us. I will see you